I need to know. We're not singing.
No singing.
Okay.
She hates it when I sing.
Is it a sandwich pun?
No, it's not
Okay.
that either. But
Okay.
it's a Ravens fan's view of what happened. Yeah, what happened.
All right.
Well,
Okay.
all right. So all the fans went to M&T. It was cold enough to wear a cardigan. They took one look at the Chiefs, who came in, said, "I knew you were trouble, but we're fearless nonetheless." But never in our wildest dreams did we think that we would miss the date with the gold-rushing 49ers at the Super Bowl. However, Lamar, instead of looking for a blank space, baby, threw into triple coverage. Not to be mean, but the anti-hero Travis Kelce did his thing. That's when we knew all too well that the Lamar Hunt Trophy, well, Chiefs took a look at it and said, "You belong with me." And then all of our Ravens fans together, we're left to face a cruel summer.
Oh,
Give it
Gil.
up for Gil, everybody. Oh my gosh. Now, listen, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling 22 claps for that one. That was phenomenal.
Well played, Gil.
I'm just so used to it. Good job, Gil.
Yeah, well done. So we'll see you soon, Gil. We're gonna bring in Jesse as
Nice
well.
meeting you, friend.
Bye, Gil.
Sorry, Anna, I lied. There was a little bit of singing.
Yeah, I knew you were going to.
I still adore you.
Hi, guys.
Bye,
Take care.
Gil.
Bye.
Fair play, Gil. Fair play.
Nice. We got Champ in the house. Champ has been modding.
Hi, Champ.
So it's great that we get to actually have Champ and Anna get to do a segment together.
I know.
Oh, I love it.
And we're also going to bring in Jesse Leon as well whenever he wants to bring on his camera and mic.
And just in case you didn't know what team he roots for, just go look at his feed. Hi, Jesse.
Yo, what up, everybody?
Welcome. Hey. I like the background. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
There you go.
I brought my homies along.
Fangirl moment.
I brought my homies on. You got George over here. You got Ayuk. I had to bring them on. They wanted to join the show. So, yeah, man, it's a good Monday for sure.
I'm so happy. It's so cool to get to speak to you. So the last time I spoke to you, they beat the Cowboys in a game, right? And then so now we're talking about a game going into the Super Bowl. So two of my favorite things, right? You guys in the Super Bowl and beating the Cowboys in any situation. And so Cowboys fans were rooting against you guys hard this week. They were becoming diehard Lions fans. Watching those feeds was hilarious because they were taunting. They were up. They were so excited for the
Cowboys fans' opinions are irrelevant. Move on.
Okay. Now, also Eagles fans were rooting against us.
Exactly.
Eagles fans' opinions are even more irrelevant.
And Seahawks fans, because I'm from Washington State.
Their opinions are even more irrelevant.
So I got all of those I got all that hate, and I was just like, that's fine. And then you got the media who weirdly hate Brock Purdy. And so it was coming all over the place.
How do you hate a guy who was the last pick in the draft and is now in the Super Bowl? How?
Who then was also injured, came back and has seriously kicked ass. And it's not a shit talker on the field. Like he's intense. He does what he needs to do, and that's it. There's no showboating. There's nothing. He's just Purdy. So I love it. Bring it.
Yeah. I'm going to ask Anna a couple of quick questions because I know she's got an early morning and I'll see for much longer. But I'm excited to get all of our thoughts on it. But I'm going to start with you, Anna. Take us back to last week because we didn't get your opinion on that. Your quick thoughts on that one, and then into this game and both the first half, and then obviously playing better in the second.
Oof. Last week, yeah. Oh my gosh. And then I fell ill and I was like, can't believe I can't celebrate with you guys. But I think that was really just that wake up call that it was going to show the fans, this is it. Like we've got it. And we're going to be, these players want it. God, Shanahan to me is like one of the most intense coaches. His dad was intense. He's intense. But I love everything about it. And I think like going into this game yesterday, I will have to admit, I was a little like, at halftime. But I didn't turn it off. I will honestly say there have been, other times with the Caps or even with the Niners where I'm like, oof, we're done. I didn't turn
I
it
turned
off.
it off and you're welcome, because they did a lot better when I turned it off and I hung out with Zach for a little bit. But
But I will say, and Jesse may appreciate this. I was like, what I'm wearing, this sweatshirt, this Niners thing, it's just not working. So I had to like take that off, put on something else, and into the halftime and shake off all that negativity. I couldn't even look at my phone because I was going to start, too many fights. But I'll tell you, like, this is the Niners. Like, this is what the fans wanted. This is what they needed. And I had just hoped the best for them. Because I like the fact that they're coming. There's no like, I know we don't want to get into the whole Travis Taylor stuff, but we don't have that kind of drama on this team. We just have players that kick ass and a team that deserves to win the Super Bowl. So I'm pumped.
yeah, so the mod father Stuart says that Purdy for MVP in chat. So
I mean, who won, who's going to the Super Bowl, who's not? You know what I mean?
100%. And I kind of like an unsung hero. I mean, it's like he's the one that like everyone, yes, McCaffrey has been a fucking badass. I mean, absolutely 23, but I will say, like, when it comes to like Purdy, he's just intense. He's got, his head's in the game. He's not a hothead. He's exactly what you would want on the bench and, whatever else. And then 100% my like love is for 85. Goddamn,
Oh yeah,
George Kittle.
Stone
Can I
Cold.
just say?
Yep.
Can I just say? I don't see Brock Purdy being MVP, but I definitely see him as comeback player of the year.
Oh,
Definitely see him as comeback player of the year.
I could take that.
yeah,
I could take that. Now, who would you pick as MVP?
Lamar.
Tough question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Lamar.
you gotta
Yeah,
take
you still have to
Lamar.
pick Lamar.
Okay.
Like
Lamar.
even with that's what
Yeah, of
happened
course.
in the playoffs.
He had one
It's a
bad
regular
game.
season. It's a regular season trophy, so yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, George Kittle. And I will say I've got a couple students at my school that are like wearing this 85 and like, Mrs. Knox, George Kittle. And I was like, I know. And then one was so cute today. He's like, I'm saving up my birthday money for a number 23 jersey. I was like, you'll get there with McCaffrey, I promise. Like it's all good. But he wears this Kittle thing jersey and this hat. Every week it's adorable. So it's kind of cool to see it through kids' eyes.
I like Kittle. He's a wrestling fan as well, so I like Kittle.
Yes, he is.
Nice.
Yeah.
He's a huge wrestling fan.
He's just he's just he's a little crazy, growing up in the Bay Area. Like, you love to follow the players, and he's just one that I wasn't in the Bay Area when he came on, but I was happy to follow him in LA, and then, obviously out here in Virginia.
Washington just hit a 3 to take the lead, 110-109 with 2:40 left in the fourth quarter. I'm trying not to jinx it. I know I'm watching on YouTube TV, so I might be behind some people, but
I hope they shoot a lot of free throws down the stretch.
oh, San Antonio. Oh yeah, I'm sure you do. San Antonio. You had the over. What is the?
Oh yeah, I should tell you. I think the number was it's a great game, by the way. I didn't want to mention that.
It's 111, 110, 2:15 left.
Yeah.
Washington hardly ever wins in San Antonio, so this is strange.
It's very rare. Nice bucket there. 2:10 left.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that Jesse can get behind.
241
rooting against
is the number.
San Antonio.
Jesse, do you have a favorite Niner player?
My favorite Niner player, oh man, Debo. I love Debo, man. He's just a beast. He's huge, like he's a big dude. He plays with so much heart, and he, like, when you get him going in the open field, he can't be tackled. Like I love Debo.
And then even I can't remember. I feel like I know we probably have talked about this before, and I'm sorry to everybody else that's on this, but I have to ask because I'm always curious. Who do you have a favorite Niner from
All time?
Yeah.
Jerry Rice
Jerry
all
Rice.
day. I have his jersey. He when I first started watching football when I was like 6 or 7, it was him and Joe Montana.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm a Niner fan. I'm from Washington State. So I grew up as a Niner fan, and then I stuck with them from day one. And as we got good, or no, I mean we were good, and as we started tailing off, and the Seahawks started coming up, everyone jumped onto that bandwagon
Yeah.
from back home, and I was like, "No, I'm not jumping. I'm not jumping nothing. Niners been my team since day
That's
one."
it. Because I
Yeah.
hate Pete Carroll. So it's just- but yeah, no, that I love because so whether Robbie knows this or not, and I don't need to like bore anybody, but
No, I set up this segment so you guys could fan over the
yeah,
Niners.
yeah.
I'm
Well,
watching
This
it
is
so
great. I love this.
Yeah.
like here's this Q&A about Anna. So we moved to South Bend in, oh my God, I was born in 75, so yes, I get it, I'm old. But we lived actually almost like across from Notre Dame. So in 78, Joe Montana, I believe, was still there.
Mhm.
Or he was there. So my dad was like, oh my God, this guy's amazing. And, like you kind of follow Notre Dame and fight Irish, and that's what you do. Of course, I was only 3, but and then eventually we moved to the Bay Area. And here we are, like all of a sudden they're talking about, Joe Montana coming. Here's this, out of college, Notre Dame coming to San
That's crazy.
Francisco.
Yeah.
So we've
Mhm.
been like, my family's been following them since 1980.
Nice.
So we've gone through, the Bill Walsh and Seifert and oh my
Yeah.
God, Singletary and everybody else, but it's
Yes.
been absolutely like just such an amazing team to watch, and Jerry Rice a favorite. But I will say that I'm probably the black sheep in a lot of this, but Tom Rathman is 100% always in my
Well,
favorite
yeah.
player.
Tom Rathman. Yeah. Nice.
So number 44 is just it's just, he's just my heart. I love when he played. And so the cool thing is, and I'll end it on this, I don't bore everybody, but when they moved from the Bay Area to Santa Clara, and they were going to be in the Levi Stadium, we had an opportunity, my brother and I, to purchase a brick in memory of my dad. And so this is like before,
Yeah.
the first
Mhm.
game was going to come and open. And so he has a brick that says, it doesn't get any better than this, and his name. And I guess they allowed it for all the fans. And then it's like some of them are on the ground and some of them are like on a wall that like are right as you go into the stadium.
Oh, that's so
So
cool.
I have a
Nice. Yeah.
replica of it on.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, so for me, it's just like, there's a lot of memories and stuff, but just to know, so like my bucket list is to at some point get to Levi to see my dad's brick there.
Oh, for
But
sure.
I just think like, oh my God, like this team is they're just fantastic. And I just really am hoping, this is going to be their Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And
It's gotta be.
God, Steve Young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah. Steve Young. For sure.
real quick scoring update.
Yeah.
Crazy turn of events. 2 different turnovers by San Antonio, including an over and back. Washington got the ball. They were only up 3, so San Antonio was going to let them play it out. They missed the bucket, but a putback and a dunk by Gafford, an emphatic dunk, puts him up 5 points, 5.7 seconds left. So probably seals the deal. We'll see if we can get some free throws. What was the over-under, Davey, that you needed? Do you know?
Oh no, they're way under that number. It was 241, and this is like barely 130.
Oh yeah. No, that's not. You're not even
Yeah,
close.
that's okay. Not
Okay.
important. The important thing here is
We might get a win in San Antonio. It's so rare for the Wizards.
I don't know if this is an upset or not, though, because I don't know who was favored. Both
No,
teams
it's an
are
upset.
terrible.
No, it's an upset. The Wizards are trash. This is an upset.
Yeah.
What a win, then.
Yeah,
Terrific
no,
stuff.
yeah, this is cool. So, Anna, I know that you've got a very busy day. We've kept you for longer than, but so hope that you win the Super Bowl. I will root for the 49ers for you.
Oh, thank you.
And hopefully they'll avenge the 2021 that was a great game, between the
Oh, 100%. And like that's just it. It's I know that you mentioned that, and I was like, you know what, that you just can't. I watched it, and it was like, okay, at that point, that's what it was, and you got to be like the better team won. It's not like we didn't try, but I do think that it's a little different this time around. I think people are just assuming
they're not going to be the underdogs this time, which is both a
Exactly.
good and a bad thing. I mean, you watch the Ravens and how they had to deal with Kansas City as being the favorite team. It's a different spotlight and a different energy.
Yep.
I think that you guys have the players to do it, but it's not easy now. You have 2 weeks to think about it, so like it's
Yeah. But I also think that Shanahan is like, I mean, he's just no joke.
Yeah.
And I truly felt like, I was getting so much shit online about how it was like 21-7 going into halftime, and I was like, just wait, because Kyle Shanahan is going to go in there and rip everyone a new one, and it's going to be no joke. And you know what they did? They came out stronger, and it's like they should have been doing that from kickoff, but so it's there. His intensity is there. The team wants it. And I just think that people expect Kansas City to take it, and I think, they're gonna be wrong.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting, and we'll talk about the matchup even more as this stream goes on. But thank you, Anna, for giving the perspective. I'm happy that we got to
go Niners. Glad to have
Yes.
a fellow
Yeah,
Niner.
Anna, that was awesome. Like,
I love it. Oh my gosh,
So,
and Davey, so now we're gonna have to talk, because I lived in Culver City, and
Oh,
you and I are gonna
wow.
have to talk. I went to school in Santa Barbara,
that
so
too.
get my info from
Yes.
Robbie, because we gotta talk
1000%.
sandwiches.
Well, yep, we will definitely we'll definitely
Absolutely.
chat more, and we'll definitely have Davey on future cap segments too. And so I think this was really a fun time. So thank you, Anna, for staying
Thank
as
you.
overtime, and hopefully you guys win the Super Bowl. And if that does, then you have a standing invitation for both of you, obviously, to come back.
Awesome.
I'm coming.
Yeah. So
Yeah, definitely. I can't promise. I'll be
I want the Niners to win the Super Bowl so I could do another segment with Anna again. I'm just saying.
Oh,
there you go.
see?
There
Just
you
saying.
go.
And
I
I'll pull
fully endorse
here's my
that.
little Travis Kelce, but it means something different with Champ. All right, guys, have a great episode. Thank
You
you
too.
so much. I will talk
Nice.
to you, and let's go Niners.
Yeah.
Yeah, go
Sounds
Niners.
good.
Bye.
Great one,
Take it easy,
Anna.
Anna. Nice meeting you.
So, all right, we're going to bring in Arun as well to continue this conversation. So, Jesse, this is our DMV roundtable. Champ and Arun and I usually talk Wizards, which we just did, but we also talk about different sports. And Champ does the No Spots podcast, which is a wrestling podcast. It's also
Nice.
our network and stuff like that. Do you follow wrestling at all?
I do a little bit. Like me and my son would watch it when he was a little younger. He's 13 now, so he's not really into it as much. But I just watched the Royal Rumble. It was on TV, and I have Peacock now because of the we had to use Peacock, and it's only $5.99 a month, so I kept it.
Yeah.
And because I don't have cable, I do kind of like I do that on the low, like Google this thing called Google Play that it's not necessarily legal. And I just wanted to like be able to watch the games without having any interruptions. So like it's $5.99 a month. So
Well,
yeah,
you probably don't know this, Jesse, but starting in 2025, Monday Night Raw, which has been on the USA Network since its inception in 1993, is going to Netflix.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah. They're making big moves.
$5 billion for over 10 years.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is so crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I did watch the Royal Rumble. And I'm a Roman Reigns fan. I don't know if DC like that, but yeah.
I acknowledge my tribal chief.
Yeah, there we go. Nice. Nice.
I'm not a Roman Reigns fan, but anyway, that's not here nor there. But I do kind of hope that the story ends and we get a new champion. Not because I dislike him, but just because I liked the era of wrestling when
I think it's time for a new champ. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just think that you can't hold it forever. Like it just otherwise doesn't get as exciting. So
Yeah.
but it was an amazing run. He's had a lot of help through the years, but so but we'll just focus on the thing, but maybe we'll talk wrestling at the very end. Maybe we'll keep you on because Champ always does a little wrestling segment at the very end of this show where we also preview his. And if you follow him on Twitch, you can get live reactions. They actually live reacted
Oh,
to
nice.
the Royal Rumble, and I watched part of that in lurk mode, and they do a great job over there doing a watch along, which is a lot of fun. And yeah, I'll do the champ command in chat for anyone that's missing that stuff. But let's talk back to I do want to talk about this 49ers game, but then Jesse, did you also watch the other game, the Ravens game?
I did. Oh yeah, yeah. I watched both of them. You know what? I kind of see things like more from like like a technical standpoint, and I was just kind of like, why are they making Lamar Jackson pass so much? Like, he's dangerous when you have those design runs. And I guess the stat was like he passed on 82% of his dropbacks. Like, come on now. Like,
I wonder
is
why they did that. It's a
Todd Monken the OC?
yeah.
Yeah, Todd Monken was, I don't know what he was thinking, and you just can't do that, man. Like you gotta let him work, let him cook, man. Like that dude is nearly unguardable when he's out in space, man. And
It's just weird that
you
they
know,
had a system that seemed to work through the whole entire season and they just went away from it. And I just feel like I was talking to somebody actually the gym that my wife works for, and they thought that they just got punched in the face real early and they just shifted their game plan. Like they just rattled them. It was just such a weird situation from the get-go. They were like messing with the kicker's gear and stuff like that, and they were just doing whatever they could to get in the Ravens' head, and it worked. Like I
and
don't
it
I just
worked.
feel
Yep.
like
Mm-hmm.
it's such a cerebral game and it's such a close game in some of these situations that I can't even be mad at Kansas City. It's a very championship thing to do, right? They knew some buttons, they pushed them at the right times, and
Mm-hmm.
they have that belief in that room that hey, everyone's doubting us. They don't remember that we're the champions. Like, let's show them why we're the champions. And they're getting hot at the right time. And so that's
Yeah.
it's
And like the game was never out of hand like that.
no.
They were in
They
striking
held them
distance the whole
scoreless in the
time.
second half. The defense
Yeah.
did its job. The offense had to just show up. It's
Yeah.
just
They had to make the plays. And then of course, like I said, I think just being like in that mode, it just got in Lamar's head. And like I said, he's trying to do some that, he's not really like throwing into triple coverage in the end zone. That obviously you don't do that, you know what I mean? But at that
it
point,
frustrates
man,
me because the guy's calling for it, the wide receiver.
stupid.
But you can't, you still can't do it. And the thing
Yeah.
is pass interference. There's a guy who's pushing him away, but the thing is he's drifting away. The throw is late. If the throw happens 2 seconds earlier, that
Yeah.
probably is a PI, right? He was
Yeah.
late on the throw. The guy's drifting him out of it, even though it's, I think, an illegal move. They're not going to call it because a different guy intercepted it. If the same guy intercepted it, would have called it, right?
Yeah.
And so it's unfortunate because it's well within the purview of the rules. They could have called it. They didn't call it,
Yeah.
and it, that, and it's just unfortunate. My heart breaks for the, for the fact that he got to the 1 yard line. He's reaching over and it just gets
Oh my
smacked
gosh.
down. And I just,
Yeah.
after the taunting thing, and what I
And
didn't
is that karma right there? It's
right,
like
he taunts the guy that does the move. I didn't
Yep.
see that until later, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh no, Champ. What are some of your thoughts on the Ravens game?
Well, speaking of Zay Flowers, outside of the gaff of that taunting penalty, he had a monster game. He caught 5 of his 8 targets for 115 yards and a touchdown. But I mean, I really think that a lot of people are going to look and put the microscope on that big catch he had, but then the taunting penalty, which took them back 15 yards. And things like that, and they're going to put the microscope on that, which I hate that for this kid because he just got caught up in the moment. He's a rookie, he's young, and he made a big play. He made a couple people miss, and he got caught up in the moment. And hopefully, as the years go by, he'll learn from that, and he won't do that again. But I think this is one of Lamar Jackson's most subpar games. He only threw for 272 yards. He had a touchdown, but he did have that pick in the end zone when he threw in the triple coverage. Yeah, there was pass interference, but the ball wasn't really near and there was like 2 other defenders there. So I mean, I don't know if you really can justify calling pass interference there when it's triple coverage and stuff like that. But it's crazy that the Ravens played so well the entire season. And this is one of the few subpar games that they had, but they had a subpar game at the very, very wrong time, which was the game before going to potentially a Super Bowl, and it ended up costing them in the end. But as I told Tim in our group chat, they have the pieces to be able to make another deep run next year. They have the pieces. They just got to put it all together and hopefully not have that bad timing of a subpar game in a situation like this. Otherwise, we're going to be talking about them being bridesmaids, but not brides again.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Davey, I want to get some of your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll piggyback all those comments. Like, it's just such a shame. Like, they had so many possessions inside the red zone that they could have scored at least a field goal or something, and they just had the worst mistakes at the worst time, whether it's a penalty or whether it was a fumble or it was an interception in the end zone. It's just like everything that could go wrong went wrong for them in this game. It was nuts. The Chiefs didn't score in the second half, and they still lost. That's just crazy to me. Like, just to think that you can play so bad and only lose by, I think, like 4 points or whatever.
It's funny, Davey, that you say that, because I texted the group chat to Tim. I said this 10 points and not having the ball first seems insurmountable, even at halftime, even though you know that Baltimore can do that, but I felt that even then, and like I'm sad that I was right, but like it's just like it just had that feeling that they punched them too many times in the mouth at the beginning and they were just too far behind.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I did get a comment in Discord. I don't know which Discord it was, one of the Discord servers. I'm assuming it's my own, but that the Chiefs didn't win the game, Baltimore gave them the game, like lost the game. I mean, I'm not gonna go that far, and I'll tell you why. Because the Chiefs' defense has proven all season they are very, very good, and they did a remarkable job, particularly with pass coverage throughout the game. So I got to give them a lot of credit. They had some key sacks during the game. Their line was really playing great. So I'm not going to go so far as to say that the Ravens gave them the game, but they surely made that easy, didn't they? With all these stupid decisions they made. I mean, it was just kind of hard to, like you said, Robbie. Like if they had just even put a field goal at like certain parts of the game, this would have been a much different game. But even with the score being so low, which is kind of in and of itself wild, especially for the degenerates like myself who were like, oh, this is a sure over now. They actually hit the under in that game because there was barely any scoring in the second half at all. I think there may have been a total of 2 field goals. And I'm being generous. I don't even think it was 2 field goals. I think it was less.
No, in the second half, there was only 1 field goal. That was all that was scored.
That's
nuts.
really wild in an NFL playoff game, right? If you think about
with
it.
the offenses you have on the field, that's crazy.
That's wild.
Because how good the defenses are, though, and how much both defenses stepped up in the second half, right?
So, and you also have to think about the fact the last time these two teams played each other, they scored a combined 69 points.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it really was. It was just. It definitely was definitely a lot of unexpected things happening at the same time in this game. Just nuts.
Arun, I want to get your. I want to get.
Oh yeah, Arun. Sorry.
Real quickly, and I'm going to fill my water, but I'm listening in while Arun gets his take.
Yeah, like the Chiefs, like they just keep winning. Like even though they're underdogs, like the last I think 2 or 3 games they've been underdogs. They've won like in the playoffs. Anyways, they were underdogs against the Eagles, against the Bills, and against the Ravens. And even though they put up a lot of points the last time around, like Tyreek Hill, I think he was on that team, and now he's gone. And I think the defense of the Chiefs is pretty underrated with Spagnuolo. Like he was the defensive coordinator with the Giants when they won the Super Bowl the first time. So he's so like I think the Chiefs defense really stepped up to the plate. Lamar Jackson, he's only 2-4 in the playoffs now. Like even his one of his wins came against the Bills, but they only put up 17 points in that game, and they lost to the Titans in 2020. But maybe he thought like he could. He put up a really good game against the Texans, especially in the second half after being flustered a bit. But I think this defense kind of confused him. He didn't really. I felt like he could have run outside the pocket a little bit more but he kind of hesitated, and even when he was running outside the pocket, it seemed like he was running in half speed. So maybe like he was a little bit nervous, or he was just hesitating a little bit. But the Zay Flowers play was just like that was a big turning point in that game, because it felt like the Ravens could have made a comeback if they got a touchdown. But I feel like even though the Chiefs are scoreless, it felt like they were playing not to lose the game in the second half. They weren't really taking that many risks. And like they even, I guess they took one risk when they just threw the ball deep on third down with under 2 minutes to go, or like what, but other than that, they were kind of like then like there were a lot of contact was being like, oh, I think the Ravens could have argued that they could have had a couple pass interference plays, but I think you can't rely on the officials. And unfortunately, Zay Flowers was just a rookie, and he made a kind of a boneheaded play, like unfortunately. But I guess some credit has to go to Snead for forcing the fumble as well. Maybe it was just more of a great defensive play than a boneheaded play, but the taunting on top of that and banging his hand and injuring it and being a non-factor for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
It's kind of unfortunate for the Ravens.
Yeah.
Learning moment, I think,
Yeah.
for Zay.
Yeah, he's a rookie, and he's he obviously was great and all season. But yeah, it's one of those things like, that taunting penalty, and then it bit you in the butt, and it's like that's karma for you. You know what I mean? And I'm a person that totally believes in it, and it just kind of shows you. You know what I mean? When we get to the next game, we'll talk more karma though.
Yeah, that sounds good. I do want to give one crazy Wizard stat, because we're probably not going to talk much about the Wizards, although they have a new coach, and they've won 2 games in the last week, so it's not bad for them. They ended that on a 20-6 run to give for a 5-point victory. So shout out to them for stepping up big down the stretch, and they usually falter down the stretch, so I just wanted to point that out. But yeah, let's get into the game, obviously, that Jesse cares much more about. This was crazy because the Lions played such a good first half. I think their coach, he makes some crazy decisions, and it hurt him in the game against the Cowboys. And, I thought that he was going to learn his lesson there, and he had opportunities to take points and didn't, in this circumstance. And I love him for his aggressiveness, right? I can get behind it. I get excited by it. It's exciting for the game, but it's in championship games. Sometimes you got to play smart and not aggressive, and so take the points that you're getting, especially in a game that close. And it kind of played into your guys' ability to make a huge comeback in this game. But what are some of your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. When we were down 14 and he had a chance to go up 17 and he did it, I was like, you don't. I mean, 2 touchdowns, I feel like you can come back. I think if you go up 17, that's you think a little bit differently if you're the 49ers. You know what I mean? I think when we stopped them there, that's when the whole game changed. That's when we're like, okay, we're only down 2. And then if you get 1 touchdown, you're only down 1. And then it's anybody's game. You know what I mean? And then with our opportunistic defense, and, people were like, oh, they got lucky on that fumble. No, we do that all the time. We make plays like, we saw last week with Dre Greenlaw's 2 interceptions. We're very, very opportunistic on defense. And I was talking to my buddy, and I was like, we're going to get a turnover at some point and to switch the game. And it happened literally like that. You know what I mean? So yeah, and then, that's his brand. That's Dan Campbell's brand. And, he likes to do that. And so at some point, you can't really fault that. But, I think in that situation, you got to go for the points, especially against an offense like what we have. When you got literally 5 guys who are all game breakers, and then sometimes the fullback, comes out of nowhere and makes plays like that. You know what I mean? And all that. And then let's bring it to karma like a little bit. Did you see the picture of Eminem like flipping off the crowd from the suite?
I didn't know the story behind it, so I didn't know if it was back when they were winning or when they were losing or when
that was at halftime. at halftime he was doing that, and then the whole CJ Gardner-Johnson waving goodbye to the crowd with like 3 minutes left in the second quarter. You know what I mean? I was like,
That's an
you could tell.
experience.
Yeah, exactly what I'm saying. You could tell they had never been there before, right? They were so pumped up, and they're like, "We basically won already." Like, no, you haven't. Like I said, like I was saying before, not like with the offense like that can put up points in a hurry, and they did. You know what I mean?
It's just
And with
crazy
Brock
that
Purdy,
in
go ahead.
the first half, there was 4 scoring drives by the Lions and only 1 by the 49ers. But then you fast forward into the third quarter, it's 3-0 49ers, and in the fourth quarter, it's 2-1. So it's 5-1. I mean, talk about like complete flipping the script. It's sort of surprising that the halves could be so different, you know?
Yeah, and they were saying Nick Bosa actually talked at halftime. And that guy is one. I don't know if you know about him. You know, he's very quiet, just does his job. And they have interviewed him after the game. He's like, actually, I'm the one that kind of like made the speech at halftime. And I think when you have someone like that, who's basically the star of the defense, talk to you, you listen. You know what I mean? He was just saying, you just got to do your job. Each individual person needs to do their job, and then we can get this going. And you could see too, we stopped the run. We were getting gashed on the run. But you could tell, second half, we gashed them. I think they got like 30, 40 yards or something in the second half on the ground. And in the first half, they had like 160 yards. You know what I mean? So we kind of tightened up on defense. And like I said, our offense just kind of, chipped away. And, they had no answers for us, man. It was awesome. And Brock Purdy, man, those runs that he had, that were just backbreaking for the Lions. Like he took off with authority, with what Lamar Jackson should have done. You know what I mean? He was making Lamar Jackson.
Lamar in this game. It's like he did the game plan that Lamar should have done, and it's just such an interesting. It was weird watching it right afterwards. You know what I mean? I was just like, because I was so sick to myself after the Ravens game. I almost didn't want to watch the NFC Championship game because I was just kind of gutted because I really thought that this was the Ravens' year to really do something. And yeah, I think that they're young and they still have a lot of opportunities, but it's just things were coming together at the right time for them. This was a huge opportunity that was missed for them, in my opinion. And so, I was like, oh, so I even turned this game off at times, dinner with my family, whatever, and wasn't taking it seriously, but then kind of tuned in more towards the end. And just watching some of those designed runs, I was just like, wow, or there wasn't designed, but he just took the space and, and it was kind of fun.
Which we've seen Lamar do against us, you know what I mean? And just watching him do that all season and then him not doing it when he needed to do it. So yeah.
I'm happy that they won because it gave me an opportunity to have you and Anna be happy and we had some positive thing because I was like, I love the story of the Lions. I think that it's been a great story in the NFL and it shouldn't be overlooked. And there's no shame to the Ravens or the Lions to making the Final Four. There's 28 other teams that wish they could be in a championship. I think it's easy to quickly be like, you lost in the Final Four. The Final Four doesn't matter, kind of like March Madness does or whatever. But there's it's still an impressive, feat, especially with 7 teams, in the playoff running now. It's harder than ever. I mean, look at the Cowboys losing to a 7 seed, right? It's like, it's a challenge to even make it that far. So hats off to both of those teams. And so there were times my son really was rooting kind of for the Lions, just because he's 5 and they're blue and blue. Of
course.
But anyway, but I was explaining the game and we were watching it, and so it was a fun experience.
If the Lions would have won, I would have been rooting for the Lions in the Super Bowl. I have no hate against the Lions whatsoever. You know what I mean? It's not like the Cowboys or the Eagles, who I despise. You know what I mean? They have a good story, and I do. And you got to love Goff's story too. Getting cast aside, he was basically a throw-in that trade.
I know.
They're like, here, let's trade, and here you can also have Goff, I guess. You know what I mean? He was like a throw-in in that trade.
Disrespectful to him.
I know, so disrespectful.
Was drafted high. People thought very highly of him. I don't know. But Davey, what are some of your thoughts?
Thank you. I appreciate. I mean, I've been excited to break this down. This game in particular has got so much to unpack. Speaking of Goff, I think the thing about it is, So I'm gonna speak from the Lions' point of view, since we got some pretty good thoughts on how the 49ers scenario and how they approached it and how they had the mettle to come back. Definitely a team that has been there before, done it before, won some big games, played some big games. It's a great comeback by the Niners. I'm just get that out of the way before I get into the Lions part of this. Just a phenomenal comeback. That takes guts to come back from a big deficit like that in the second half, when you know that the results of that game is going to take you to the Super Bowl. It's huge. It's a huge comeback. It says a lot about what this team is, what their character is. Amazing stuff. So with that all said, let's go to the Lions' end of this. The Lions really got away from what worked for them. They really did. They were killing them with that run. Now, Jesse's right. They did. The Niners' defense has improved a lot in the second half, but still, I feel like they panicked when that happened. They got away from it, and they were just resorting to these throws by Jared Goff, which is not good strategy. I mean, we've seen Jared Goff in big games before. When you rely on Jared Goff to execute throws in a big game, and especially if it's tight coverage, it's just not a good formula. And I just think the Lions really blew it there, just not sticking to the run more and trying it more, or mixing it up at least, or at least putting people in motion. They were panicked. They were just they kept trying to go for these slant patterns to get the first down. And they had it in certain occasions, even one time where they got a throw down the middle. Everything's on St. Brown, whoever it was who had it, dropped the ball. It's my goodness. It's true on two fronts. One, karma. Jesse's right about that. Two, that was a moment where you saw which team had the experience, which team didn't. This team had never been there before. And sometimes when you face yourself in a game, when you're faced in a game like that, and you feel the pressure, you have a big lead, and you feel the pressure of retaining the big lead, that's a problem. But the bigger problem for me, and I think Robbie kind of hit this earlier in our segment, Campbell does what he does. He's so aggressive, except unbelievably at the end of the second quarter. Why did he kick a field goal at the end of the second quarter? If you're going to do that the rest of the game, why did you kick it? Why didn't you go for it on fourth down when there were 11 seconds left? And were you guys surprised at that? Because I would have thought he was going to go for it there, run it in or something else. That was crazy. You can answer that later. But Campbell has to really get the idea of context of a game. Because you had the first scenario, which I think Jesse made the point of, where they could have gone up 17 with a field goal. I think they really didn't respect how good the 49ers defense was. Now, admittedly, they were playing like crap in the first half, so obviously there was no reason to. But still, this is a defense that that's really talented, and they can shut down even the greatest offenses when they're on their game. You have to take the points there. I just think that it's a big game. You need to get points where you can get points. You can't assume you're just going to get a touchdown on the next possession. It's
not a regular season game. It's not a regular season game. It's not like if we win, we win. If we don't, we don't. It's you got to take the points no matter what.
Well, I think that maybe that's why he takes the field goal at the end of the first half, because he didn't make it on fourth down, and he didn't want to be looked at as he tried it twice and then he left 6 points on the board.
I thought about that too, and it definitely something to that. But psychologically it made more sense to do it the first time. Well, but the bigger one was in the fourth. Was it the fourth quarter? I think it was the fourth quarter.
To tie the game?
That's the bigger one.
Yeah, that's insane.
It's absurd. You have to get that field goal. You're already kind of losing your grip on the game. You had, maybe it was a 35. It was from the 35-yard line.
It would have been a 48-yarder, yeah.
Yeah,
but still, that's not that bad.
But still, you could definitely make that. They could definitely make that. I mean, the kicker. I'm sorry to say, the kicker is not Jake Moody, so
I know.
But yeah. but listen, Moody made it when it counted, right? when later in the game.
Last week too. Yeah, he made a 52-yarder in the rain,
absolutely.
which is clutch. Yeah.
So that we can't always just bag on Jake Moody, because he does make some big kicks too. So, but that one you had to kick there. That one you had to do.
I feel like the Ravens didn't use Justin Tucker enough to talk about kickers that were left on the bench.
Yeah.
So.
But anyway, just to just go, well, where the Lions will get this. It's it was just it's asinine to not try that field goal, because I think that changed it it would have changed it. Let's see. So they lost by 3. Yeah, they lost by 3 points.
3 points. Yeah,
they lost by 3 points because of that decision. So think about that for a second. This is the difference between tying the game, if they score that touchdown at the end of the game, them going to overtime or just losing outright. It's just absurd.
Yeah.
Just absurd.
Yeah,
So
I gotta give it to Bosa too, man. He had a couple monster sacks, man.
yeah,
Like he like I said, he put it on himself to like kind of pump up the defense at halftime, and then he himself just went out there and just he had that one sack where he threw Goff to the ground, and I was like,
I
oh my
did.
god, did he give him a concussion? Because he like
That's great.
threw him to the ground, and then like he hit his head on the ground. I thought like, oh shoot, someone better check on him.
Yeah, for sure.
The blitz kills
Um,
Jared Goff, man. And I will say, I'm just gonna add this. I mean, I know we haven't gotten to this part of the show yet, but I just want to get this out there while I still remember it. I will say, if the Lions had won the game, they were gonna get killed by Kansas City. There's no way they were gonna beat that team. Their coverage is too good. That line would have killed Jared Goff. I think they would have gotten their butt kicked in that game, to be honest.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way too. I don't think the Lions were beating Kansas City just because they have that championship mentality where I
Yeah.
feel like the 49ers will give them a better shot. That's why in the end, I was rooting for the 49ers at the end of the game because I was like, you know what, this is a team that could actually take them down. Where I don't necessarily, at the end of that game, I didn't feel like the Lions were going to be that team, So,
Mhm.
and Arun, what are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, like it was. They had if the Lions had won, this would have been a Week 1 rematch. The opening game of the season was Lions and Chiefs. Although it was very different, but it's still like the Lions won, but they were
That's
missing the
true.
top defensive end, the Chiefs. And I think the Chiefs would have definitely been the favorites this time around. But it was still would have been kind of crazy that would have been the matchup.
Full circle. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
but yeah, the Lions. I think I mean, I guess Campbell can get blamed, but you can also just blame like the Lions players on the fields, like Reynolds with the 2 drops, Armon St. Brown with the drop, the big fumble by Gibbs, even though like the 49ers did a great job forcing the fumble. That was the only turnover of the game. And it's like the second straight, well, not the second straight, but the Rams game, the Lions offense kind of came to a halt in that game. It's just that the Rams offense didn't really get it going. And so I believe they have like 10 points in those combined 2 games against NFC West opponents in the playoffs. So like just a little bit, and almost like they almost didn't even get any points because they went for it on 4th down on like I don't even know why they didn't just kick the field goal and like they wasted a timeout to instead of like they had to do an onside kick. And
Yeah,
even though
well,
it was kind of a
that
close
stop
onside
on third down on that third down run was huge.
Huge.
You know what I mean? They forced him to take that timeout. You know what I mean? It was so huge. Yeah, you might have kicked the field goal there.
Yeah, just kick a field goal and try to hope for 3 and out, even though maybe it's not going to work. Just kind of common video game knowledge. Maybe Campbell can play some Madden in the off season.
Arun, it's interesting. I feel like for as much as we said about Campbell, it's pretty consistent with his personality, right? Like, it's actually kind of predictable what he did. It's just unfortunate, though.
But he's
Yeah,
gonna have to change if he wants to make it to that next level. I just don't think that aggressive style is ever gonna win the final game.
it did
Like,
with the Saints, like in the Colts, like that, like a couple. They went for like an onside kick, and like they didn't even have to go for an onside kick. So sometimes
yeah.
it works
But
out.
that's when it's gonna surprise teams. Like, it's never gonna work. Like, onside kicks are so rare when you know what's coming. It's just
Yeah. No, I mean like that was aggressive though. Like I was just saying,
that's
as
true.
far as aggressive, like that was some
They
alpha.
work occasionally. I just don't think that you can get enough of them where you're going to string them together to get a win in a big game, especially against maybe you can get a team that's like an upstart, but against a team that was just in a championship game in 2020, it's not
Yeah,
like they have that. Yeah.
I just want to add really quickly. What we're talking about, just for the audience, like, is that it's not just that we would always settle for 3 every time, because then you have the opposite end of that would be like when Mike McCarthy just kicked a field goal every time they were at the goal line against the Seattle Seahawks in 2014 NFC Championship. That's the opposite problem. You can't do that. Like, you have 1 yard to get a touchdown. Like, you have to go for it there. But there's a difference between that than you're on the 35 and it's like 3rd and like 5, and it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just you have to consider the context of the situation.
And they run it like on the 3rd down play in one of them instead of throwing it. Which was like,
Right.
Yeah. I
That's
don't think you should run with less than 2 yards in a third down play, no matter how much you believe in your running attack. I just
Yeah.
don't like, I don't know, but
He got out coached. He got out coached. And
1000%.
like I said, Kyle Shanahan is, he's a master. He's been there before. Hasn't won the whole
Why
thing,
did the
but he's been
Commanders
there.
let them get away? There's so many coaches in this tree now. They let like 6 coaches get away, and I'm just like, how does that even
I think we know the
Like,
answer to that question. I think Champ might have the answer too.
yeah, Champ, what are
Snyder.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much. All right. So basically, a couple things that I observed with this game. Number one, the Lions, that opening drive, the first drive of this game was 1 minute and 42 seconds, and they scored like that. They had a couple of big chunk plays, and then they had the big end around where they had the big play where Homie just made people miss and made people break. He broke tackles and he got into the end zone. I was just like, wow. Like they just scored out of nowhere just really quickly over the number 1 seed in the NFC. And it was like, okay, this is going to be something here. And then when they came out and had an even longer drive and scored and got up 14 up, I'm like, okay, something's going on here with this 49ers team. Something needs to happen here. And when they were up as big as they were going into halftime, I'm like, this is interesting. But clearly, again, as everybody has mentioned, 49ers have been here before. And then Brock Purdy, again, had he not gotten injured last year, we could be talking about a whole different thing when it came to the Super Bowl last year, had he not gotten hurt. And they had the whole third emergency quarterback situation like they had this season. But I think that one of the things that stands out to me is Christian McCaffrey, even though he only had 90 yards, he was grinding them out. He had 20 rushes. He averaged 4.5 yards per carry. So he was grinding them out. He was grinding out that defense. And again, Purdy, yeah, he had the 1 pick, but he was fairly accurate, 20 of 31 for 267 yards. He did have the touchdown pass. The big play, though, was that insane catch by Ayuk. That was an insane catch. Like, I don't know how he caught that, but he did.
Did you hear what he said?
Like, what
he
he said?
He said before the game, a ladybug was landed on his shoe.
Oh, good luck.
Yeah,
Good
that's what he
luck.
said.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
We'll
like
take
if a ladybug lands on you, that's good luck. So clearly he had the good luck because that was a catch that I don't know how. There's a lot of Hall of Fame receivers I don't think make that catch, and he made that catch. So I mean, wow. But this is a highly contested game, and I see Coach Campbell as sort of like Riverboat Ron 2.0. Like he's going to take them chances.
When he was saying that, literally, that was what
he's going to take them chances just like Ron Rivera would take them chances when he was in Carolina and when he was here. He's going to take them chances. The only thing though is like, are they going to pay off? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. He already got chastised for the fact he went for it on 4th down multiple times against Dallas early on in the late in the regular season, and then again it comes up here in the playoffs in a critical playoff game, a conference championship game, and it ended up biting them in the ass.
It's just arrogance at that point, though. Like if it just happened, you know what I mean? Like I hate to say that, but it's just he believes in himself maybe too much. Like he's kind of full of himself, and
it could be ego, Robbie. It could be ego, or it could be that he's not someone that pays attention to analytics and just goes by gut feeling and his belief in his team. That could be that could be a thing too.
But it's not going to work enough. I just feel like it's going to falter 50% of the time, and you need at least 60% success rate. You know what I mean? It's like I don't. It's hard for me. I don't see it ever getting him a Super Bowl until he makes that adjustment. But I don't know.
That's true. That is true. But either way, I think that San Fran, they played so well throughout this entire season that they found a way to overcome the odds that were in front of them of a deficit going into halftime, managed to make the adjustments to be able to win this game. And now we present ourselves with what should be a very, very entertaining and very, very unique Super Bowl matchup. So big shout out to Kyle Shanahan getting to the Super Bowl and managing to find a way to come back over a team that this was their first conference championship game since 1991. I was 8 years old the last time they were in a conference championship. Just think about that. I was 8 years old, and this is their first conference championship game. I don't think it's going to be their last unless Campbell gets out of that Riverboat Ron mentality, and does kind of play a little bit more smartly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to give
Especially
it.
at certain times. At certain times of the game, yeah, you got you gotta like use your head a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
I want to give a quick little shout out to Ginger Dory, a good friend of mine, who just gifted 5 subs, helping us get to our monthly sub. So thank
Nice.
you so much for that, and it gets us to I think 16 of the 20, which is amazing. So I really appreciate it. Yeah, we've got a lot of people live tonight. We've got a big 49er fan and Jesse, who I haven't seen in a year, and so I'm super happy he's returning. And then Davey from Davey's eating a sandwich, which I think is a great
Thank you, Robbie.
show, and it's a show that I've gotten to join him on a bunch of times, eating sandwiches, talking different stuff, and one of my favorite other podcasts on this platform. And then we got Champ, who also does a podcast, wrestling one, on there, and then Arun also does the Hey Arun show, which I think is I don't know if it's on hiatus right now, but he does do a show over there and has been on my show for 7 years, which is kind of amazing. Actually, coming up on 8 now, because the AC.
Has DC or Champ or Arun ever been on the Sandwich Show?
Good question.
No,
We should definitely get you all on. We
Yes,
can talk
we
about.
I've seen him.
Maniac
I've seen
preview?
Davey playing music, but I haven't been on the show.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we've rated into Davey doing music before.
Oh, me doing music?
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good one. Good show. It's a good show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. It's fun. So I'm just happy that Jesse's back on Twitch. I kind of lured him in. It's been a little bit. So
Listen, if Davey wants an education on wrestling, I'll be on his podcast and I'll educate him on wrestling. Deadass.
But you got to bring a sandwich though, DC.
Yeah, I mean, we'd love
listen, I got a Subway near my apartment. I'll go holler at Subway.
Will you prefer? Will you go with the preferred method, the preferred sub there?
I'm a steak. I'm a simple guy. Steak and cheese or Black Forest ham.
Oh, those are good choices.
Ooh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. Dig it.
So yeah, and I'm hoping that Champ's actually going to come, maybe even make an appearance at the Super Bowl here in the Man Cave. So that might be a thing. That would be kind of fun, and maybe Arun too. So maybe Tim. So it'd be kind of fun to do some sort of segment there.
Really quickly, Robbie, like when you have the Super Bowl, do you have folks from this podcast on over just to watch the game? Like,
yeah, we just watch the game and then we can
Nice.
talk about it the next night. So yeah, we used to do a lot of Super Bowl parties like every year at my house, but obviously with 2 kids, a 5 and a 2-year-old, it gets a little bit more challenging. But yeah, I mean, if anybody's in the area who wants to be a part of it and come check it out live, it's definitely hit me up on either Facebook or Whisper or whatever. But yeah, no, it's super fun. I definitely caught a lot of different sporting events with Arun and Tim, and Champ and I have watched sporting events together, but never in the Man Cave. So the invitation is always open for him. It's a little difficult to watch him on a Monday night because he lives in Virginia on the other side of the DMV, so it's a little bit far. But yeah, hopefully maybe for the Super Bowl this year, maybe we make it happen. So
Yeah, I'm with you on the kids thing. I had a Super Bowl party, I think for like 10 straight years, starting from like my sophomore year in college. And then kids. I was able to have it for a few years once my son was born, but yeah, it's hard to do it every year.
But it's funny.
Hard to
I
make that
remember I have videos of Zach watching Shakira as one of his first Super Bowls and just being infatuated with her at the halftime show.
Don't blame him.
Hey, as a lot of guys are.
Yes, exactly. That's one of my early memories. But yeah, Arun's been to a bunch of Super Bowl parties over the years with us, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. I definitely enjoy the Super Bowl. Liz always does it big, cooks up all sorts of fun stuff, and it's always it's one of my favorite events of the year, which is a great segue. So let's just talk about the matchup and some of our thoughts. So Davey, I'll let you go first and give your thoughts on the Super Bowl matchup.
Well, I gotta be honest with you guys. Like, I was really rooting, even though I said what I said about Detroit. I was really rooting for like Bills Lions to be the Super Bowl because I just think that the storyline of that would have been amazing. But I'll say this: these 2 teams are the best matchup I think for this game. I would have said Baltimore, but if they were gonna play like they did yesterday, or was it yesterday? Yeah, if they're gonna play like they did yesterday, maybe not. But it's a great matchup. this is a great matchup. Like these two teams, not only are they really talented, but they've really shown their mettle. And I think what's of particular interest to me is that both defenses are now really at the top of their game right now. Though I did get some comments from like some of my Niner fan friends, and Jesse, feel free to chip in on this. Like they were talking about how like they were flawed in certain areas of the defense, and I wasn't really sure if that was just a heat of the moment scenario. But do you see flaws in their defense? Like I think their defense is just good.
We've had a couple like cracks in our run defense.
Okay.
But in the last 2 second halves, they've really cracked down. So we can just do a whole game of like, of how we played in the last 2 second halves. Yeah, we're tough. Like we're tough. We have all pros all up and down that defense. Like legit all pros. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I was thinking that too. Like, and thanks for that. Like, Greenlaw had a really good game. I think it was in the divisional round. Like, it was just like that. He was on fire that night. So just to break this down, Robbie, do you want like a full prediction or just a full
real
game?
quickly, one thing that's kind of crazy about Kansas City going against good defenses, I'll just quickly say, is I read a stat that the last 6 times they faced the number 1 scoring defense, they won, which is crazy. And they beat the Ravens yesterday, which is the number 1 scoring defense of this year. But like, I just thought that was an interesting statistic. I was like, wow, that's, They seem to raise to that challenge, if you will.
I mean, that's Patrick Mahomes, basically. I mean, he's next level.
And Kelsey. I mean, people quickly talk about Patrick Mahomes all the time, but I'm telling you, maybe I'm biased because I've been super into his podcast lately. But Travis Kelsey, I think, has broken a shit ton of records in the last couple of weeks. Some of them were records that people thought were untouchable. And most receptions. In the
he broke Jerry Rice's record, which makes me mad.
Right, wow. I know, like, and most touchdowns, it's some really impressive stats. So I don't know, but Davey, feel free to keep on going.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So you're talking about two defensive backfields that are just really just at the top of their, just really top tier right now. This is gonna be a tough game. But even though it looks like on paper it's gonna be a really low scoring game, I actually think it's gonna be the opposite. You've got so much talent on the Niners. I think they're going to definitely do their thing. For the Chiefs, what you're going to be looking at is obviously Kelsey, which is going to be not easy to defend. But on the other hand, they don't really have any receivers. But I will say this, Valdez-Scantling has looked really good lately. He's really stepped it up. I'm shocked. Like he was the king of the drop during the regular season. Like he dropped a key pass that basically cost him the game against the Eagles. And he goes from that to like catching every big pass. Like give it up to MVS. Like I can't believe it. Like great for him. Like so Mahomes is Mahomes. I mean, he's been on so many Super Bowls now. This would be definitely his his third in as many years now.
Fourth in 5 years.
Wow, how about that? Fourth in 5 years, folks. So
he went to
amazing
6 straight
run.
championships and made 4 of them.
It's very impressive, any way you slice it. So you have that. You have a guy though in Brock Purdy who does not seem to be afraid of the spotlight at all. I love this matchup. I mean, on paper, this is a great matchup. It's going to be a very good game. I think it'll be pretty close. I'm taking Kansas City because again, championship medal. It's just like any other great player in history, whether it was Michael Jordan or like Derek Jeter. Maybe Derek Jeter's not a good example. I'm not going to go with him, but. But any big player like Tom Brady, right? Joe Montana in his day, you just don't bet against guys who've done it time and time again like Patrick Mahomes. But having said that, I'm rooting for San Francisco here because I just think they've got the tools. They're not afraid of these guys, and they'd already played them. Like even though it was kind of a different team, because Purdy was another quarterback back then. It was wasn't it Jimmy G? I think it was Jimmy G.
Yeah.
Jimmy G. But Purdy's definitely better, I think, and more accurate, better. I mean, and definitely can run, with a ball and everything. So it's gonna be great. I like both teams. I think it's gonna be fantastic. I won't complain about whoever wins this. And it's gonna be good stuff. I'll pick Kansas City to win by 3 points, but personally, it really could go either way. I mean, I guess final score, I don't know. I'm gonna go like Kansas City 35, Niners, 32. No, we'll go Kansas City 34, Niners 31 or something like that.
That seems fair. So yeah, I think it's interesting to have these same coaches going against each other, but have very different constructed teams this time. Like there's some, key elements that are the same, obviously, but a lot of that has been shifted. A lot of the wide receivers in Kansas City have shifted, right? A lot of players on that team all throughout. I mean, some of the key components are still the same. And the same thing with the 49ers, different quarterback, and just a lot of other. McCaffrey wasn't on that team, right? Or was he?
No.
No, he wasn't. Right? Yeah, and so that's obviously a big part of it too. So it'll be interesting to see how these different coaches take, and the team's identities I feel are very different this time around. The last time in 2020, the Kansas City hadn't proven themselves to be a dynasty yet, right? So so now you got this sort of team of destiny, sort of the new era of the Patriots, kind of the previous generation, and then you've got this 49ers team who's been solid all year, and the only game I really felt that they were weak against was the Ravens game, and so I think in their minds they're probably pretty happy not to have to play the Ravens again, although it's hard to beat the same team twice. But it's just gonna be interesting to see how the 49ers are able to step up and match that Kansas City toughness, because the Kansas City has the belief that they're the champions, and people keep on counting them out. They're kind of the road team all the way through this thing. And so, Jesse, what are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, it's gonna be, like I said, it's gonna be good on good. You know what I mean? And like I said, just having that uh, uh you have that experience. Like Shanahan has that experience against Andy Reid now, so I think that plays in his favor a little bit. He's like a wizard, with his play calling and whatnot. So I think he's got 2 weeks to get a game plan together of how he's gonna punch Andy Reid in the mouth, and I think that's gonna be important. But yeah, I think if our defense from the last two second halves can play a full fourth quarter game, that's going to be tough. I mean, we're going to be tough. The run defense, because what's his name? Pacheco, that dude is a beast. Dude can run super hard. If we can kind of limit him, you know what I mean, keep him below 100 yards, I think we're going to have to put, I think a lot of times we're going to have to put Javarius Ward, our all-pro corner, on Travis Kelce at times. I think that would be, a good matchup to have. Because like I said, like Dave was saying, the other receivers don't scare you. They can be solid, but they don't scare you to where they're gonna break open a game. Like I said, MVS, all much respect to him for stepping it up, but like I said, he just not, he's not that guy. Rashee Rice is one that I'm a little bit of not afraid of, but that that can obviously put up a big play. But yeah, I think as long as we honor our gaps, and like we didn't do in the first two halves of our last two games, it's going to be tough. And yeah, Brock Purdy, man, like he has just blossomed into this, like we people don't understand, like like Anna was saying earlier, he tore his shoulder at the end of last year. The fact that he's been playing, that he even started the season, was nuts. You know what I mean? I thought he was out at least till mid-season, and second season in the league, last pick in the draft. He really showed me something in the second half, man. And I think we're a team of destiny. You know what I mean? I think that, those last two comebacks really put it on our shoulders that, like, hey man, this is our time. You know what I mean? We could have got bounced twice already. It's time to just step up, put your pedal to the metal. I think Brock Purdy's gonna come in. I think they're all going to come in. Debo and Bosa were both rookies the last time we were in the Super Bowl, so they got a little taste of it. Kittle, I think, was in maybe second or third year. You know what I mean? They were really young, and there's that clip of Kittle, on the sideline after they lost, and he was like, "I will be back here, and I'm going to be back with a vengeance." You know what I mean? And we got dogs like that. You know what I mean? Debo and Kittle and Bosa, they had that taste, and yeah, and they're all three players that can, push their will on you. You know what I mean? They're all big, big dudes that actually can physically impose on you. And I think they're gonna do it. I think they're gonna pull it off. It's not gonna be easy, And then Andy Reid is a fantastic coach.
Yeah,
So,
that's the thing
he's
I'm
going
the
to come in.
most worried about is being out coached because, I obviously like, your coach, but at the same time, Andy Reid has so much experience, right? Has
Hmm.
faced so much adversity and different things throughout his career and has seen almost every possible scenario that's going to be thrown at him. And that's difficult to coach against. I really think the key for you guys is to not fall too far behind at any point in the game early
Hmm. Right.
because like you just can't rely on a comeback 3 times in a row. I just
No.
not
Mm-mm.
against that coach, right? I think that
No.
the Ravens were a great example of it, right? Even the Ravens who have a solid defense and held them to nothing and couldn't find a way to score enough points against them to come back, right? So
Hmm.
now I don't know. The Ravens offense is pretty good. I do believe the 49ers have different weapons they'll utilize differently against that defense, so they have some advantages there. But
Yeah.
it just showcases that even 10 points at halftime would be too far of a gap. You got to keep it close.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I said, I think if you go weapon for weapon, we have the best overall weapons like in the game. Like the tight end is top notch. You know what I mean? Two very very Ayuk was all pro this year, second team all pro. Obviously Debo is super dynamic. McCaffrey all pro. Kittle all pro. You know what I mean? Brock Purdy all pro. MVP candidate. You know what I mean? So if you go full well rounded offense, yeah, we got it. And so yeah, but you're right though. You can't fall too far behind. You know what I mean? If we can
Can't
just
give
keep
them
it
the
within one
belief that they're
score.
going to win it. That's what I think the Ravens gave Kansas City the belief that they're going to win it at halftime, and they just took out and run with it. So like
Yeah.
you got to have that doubt in their mind that they think that they don't.
And Spagnuolo's a hell of a defensive coordinator. So yeah, no, we'll get it. But my prediction, I'll end with it. I'm gonna say we're gonna win 27-20.
All
We're gonna
right,
win by a touchdown. Yeah.
there you go. All right, champ, I'm going to go to you next.
So where I see the stalemate at is the passing game. The 49ers are currently sitting at the fourth best passing offense in the league, averaging 258 yards per game. Whereas the Kansas City defense, they average giving up only 176.5 yards per game, which ranks at fourth best. So it's the fourth best passing offense against the fourth best passing defense. So where San Fran, if they want to have a chance at beating this team, is going to be on the ground. They have the third best rushing offense in the league, averaging 40.5 yards per game, whereas Kansas City, they're T17th in rushing defense, giving up 113 yards per game. So if the 49ers can get Christian McCaffrey going, I don't know if the Kansas City Chiefs can really hold that off. I mean, passing wise, they could probably hold their own, but it's going to be the run game that's going to be the big factor here in this game. So I look at this, and apparently George Kittle is showing up on the injury report with a toe injury. So that's going to be a big thing if he's able to play or not. If he's got 2 weeks, so if it's not a serious toe injury and he's able to play, he's still going to be a factor. The last time these two teams played, KC beat them by 11 points, 44, well, about 21 points, I should say, 44-23. But this was back in October of 2022. A lot has changed in almost 2 years. A lot has changed. If I'm going to make a pick, I'm going to go with the Niners. Yes, Mahomes and Andy Reid and Kittle and all them, they've been here before. But just going to be real, Purdy didn't have a chance to get here last year because he was injured and they ended up falling to the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that they're a team of destiny, in my opinion. They're a team of destiny. They were the number one seed in the NFC for a reason. They played well the entire year. They've been playing well on all cylinders. I honestly think the San Francisco 49ers will go and get that ring. So I'm going with the 49ers on this one.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, it's so hard to pick. scores and who's gonna win. So you think it's gonna be the 49ers by how many? What was it?
It's going to be a close game. I think that the 49ers win this one 24-21.
Oh shit!
It's going to be a close. It's going to
No
be a close.
joke.
It's
That's
going
what
to be
I
a
was
close
just
game.
thinking. That I was honestly thinking it was gonna be like 24-21 or 27-24 or something in that sort of range. So I definitely think that they could win by a field goal right up in there. So that's
Yeah, it's going to be a close game because again, both teams are equally matched when it comes to the passing game. It's just the run game is going to be where the difference is going to lie, and if the Niners can get the run game going, it might be more. But I think that it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a 3-point game.
yeah. Arian, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm kind of like similar to like last week. I have no idea what's gonna happen. But like, I only picked the Chiefs kind of last week because like only because I was like, well, Patrick Mahomes with the 49ers on paper are even better. So I'm like, because like they have 7 or 8, they have 8 Pro Bowlers. The Ravens only had 7. Well, only is not. That's quite a lot of Pro Bowlers. I don't think, and 5 for the Chiefs. But there's like an injury, key defensive injury for the Chiefs. The guy who had the
Oh yeah, Manahu. Yep,
he's out for the
former
game.
Niner. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. I have to think more about it. Stay tuned. I
Like,
think it's like a toss up.
you have to check out his blog, I guess. So
Yeah.
I like it.
That's a good point though. Charles Omenihu out for the game, man, tore his ACL, and
Yeah,
he's a big pass rusher. We had him last year. Yeah, he's a great player.
that's wild. That
Oh man, that's a good point. That's a good point, Arun. Can I add one more thing? What do you think is going to be the challenge for the Niners defending Isaiah Pacheco? Because he's been a bit of a he's been that guy for the Chiefs. He's actually been one of the better highlights of their offense. I'm curious to see how that will play out. Does anyone have any feel for that matchup?
Well, I know basically, like I said, the last 2 first halves, our gap assignment was horrible. And I don't know if that's the D coordinator. Obviously it's some on him, it's some on the players. But whenever we honor our gaps and we stay true to where we're supposed to be, as opposed to playing hero ball like Chase Young kind of did it, even Bosa did it a little bit. As long as we do our job, I mean, like I said, we have stars all over our defense. As long as we do our job, our single job, our unit will be able to stop the run. You know what I mean? But like I said, the last 2 first halves, it didn't happen. So as long as it does happen, we can stop them. I mean, we can stop anybody, honestly. But yeah.
I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens. It's gonna be a great game. I'm really excited about it. I obviously was pretty heartbroken right when the Ravens lost it, just because I really wanted it for that team. I know the Commanders are my 1A, they're my number 1 team, but like the Ravens have been that AFC team for me for the last 20 years. It's been a long time that they've been in this area, and I live just as close to them as I do to go to a Commanders game. And although this podcast is a DC sports podcast, so we try to focus on it from the Commanders point of view, but I've always personally loved the Ravens. Tim wanted to be on but he unfortunately had a car issues this morning, so he's up at 5:30 in the morning. It was just too late for him to be on to talk about the Ravens tonight. But so I was pretty heartbroken. I was almost like, screw the Super Bowl, like blah blah blah, but like then I watched the next game, and then I've gotten kind of back to being excited about it again. So I think that it will be an interesting matchup for sure. And I think that the running game will play a big role in it, both sides. I think both teams have great quarterbacks, and then they'll have to try to stop them, but that's going to ultimately probably be the difference maker. But what are your thoughts, Davey?
Oh, on the running game?
Or just whatever. You look like you wanted to say something.
Yeah. No. I mean, I'm pretty much echoing what everybody else said. I feel like there's a whole lot more to add. I agree. This will be quite a matchup. I'm looking forward.
Yeah, sounds good. Well,
real quick, Commander question: Who's going to be your guys' coach next year?
I think it's I mean, there's a lot of rumors going on that it's going to be the OC from the Lions. It'll be the head coach. But Champ, what are your thoughts?
I think it's going to be the Lions OC.
Yeah.
Ben Johnson.
I think it is.
Yeah. I mean, that's been the rumor for the last week. So we'll see. They could only interview him in certain ways and stuff like that. And, he's been looking at here and Seattle, it looks like, are the sort of in the running for him. And there's been a hard push for him, it seems. So it's interesting because they may get the OC from the one team that lost and the DC from the other, because it's talk that they're trying to steal from the Ravens, the defensive coordinator. So, like, it'd be interesting to see if they get the two parts of the Final Four, and mix and match it, and that becomes our new, or at least our DC and head coach. So
I mean, he had that offense humming, man. The Lions, like they are humming. You know what I mean? I just think the only reason they lost was because of coaching. But like that's
But if he's the head coach and he's making the call and he's not being so aggressive, I wonder. You know what I mean? Like,
Interesting.
Yeah, you're right. But I mean, but like all year he's been dicing people up, and like I said, Goff isn't the most gifted passer, but he was able to like kind of mold him into like have that. And
interesting to see if he picks his own quarterback or if they try to get a better offensive line and retool and because it was hard for us this year what we had at the quarterback position because the offensive line had so many question marks,
and that's so hard to judge because obviously Sam Howell's he's got talent, you know what I mean? And wasn't he the most sacked quarterback? Was he the most sacked quarterback this year?
He was, but I mean that's right, the offensive line. But at times he was also like tops in in passing. And if you take the sacks out of it, would have had like really great numbers, and so it's really tough to know.
No, I agree, but I would also say the interceptions were definitely a big problem.
Oh yeah,
for a lot of so
I think that's also on the offensive line. He was holding it for too long and he wasn't making great calls. But if he had a strong offensive line, more balance with the run game. I think that we weren't doing him any favors, and so that's true. It's hard to evaluate, I guess, is ultimately on whether or not you want to spend draft capital. I mean, personally, I think you would move back. You have such a great spot. I would like to move back and get a couple of later first round and an extra pick. Try to reach.
I got one. Can I give this one to Champ, and then you can take it too, Robbie?
Yeah.
Would you take Kirk Cousins back knowing he was healthy?
Good question.
Would you? Oh, did Champ freeze?
What happened?
No, Champ. I was asking if you had the opportunity, they offered the opportunity either by a trade or a free agency to get Kirk Cousins back on the Commanders for the next season.
Why? Why? Fucking why?
I guess that's the answer.
He's lined up for another 2012 quarterback.
No. No. No.
The reason I'm asking that though is because he's not as bad as I thought he was.
No,
I don't care. No.
We got to move on at some point from
right.
No. Like,
no.
I just don't. I'd like to draft somebody in a later round, but not necessarily spend your first round capital on another,
No, I understand that. Yeah, definitely. Definitely on that point. I was assuming like it would
Commanders
be like
Commanders fans are so obsessed with us. We have the number 2 overall pick and they want Caleb Williams. And they're like, yay, hooray, we want Caleb Williams. Yay, woo, we want Caleb. That's what we want. Yay, shut up. I don't want Caleb Williams in this locker room. At all. I don't. Yeah. I don't care how talented that kid is. His attitude rubs me the wrong way. I don't want him at all.
Fair.
I agree.
I don't.
That's fair.
I agree.
Very fair. I'm a USC fan. I know that well.
I don't want him. I don't want him. I don't care how talented you are. The fact that his attitude rubs me the wrong way. And with this locker room being so reformed under Ron Rivera, even though he wasn't successful on the field, he did bring a culture change to this team. And if Caleb Williams comes to this locker room, that whole change of culture is going to go out the window. I don't want that kid in this locker room at all.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think you roll with Sam Howell. This is my opinion. I think you roll with Sam Howell, build that offensive line and the defensive line, because you have to obviously replace a couple of the guys that you guys lost, and just go from there, man. And like I said, maybe even trade back because you got the second pick. Is it the second?
Yeah.
It's crazy to me. We traded Chase
Yeah.
Young this year. Now he's in a Super Bowl.
I mean,
Yeah, but he honestly, to be honest, he hasn't been fantastic for us.
yeah, I was
So,
gonna say I was watching a couple of plays where it looked like the joystick was unplugged. Like I was like, dude, he just whiffed at a guy. He didn't even
yeah,
like
he did. Yeah, a
try.
couple times,
Just
But
like
no, I think that's what you got to do. I mean, like I said, the Niners, they were. I don't know if you guys remember, they were really shitty for a long time.
Mhm.
So, but they just built on the defensive line and the offensive line, and all those first round picks that they had. That's where they went. You know what I mean? And eventually, we didn't splurge on a quarterback. We didn't. We just kept true. We stayed true, and then now look at us. You know what I mean? Now we got
Yeah.
beasts. You know what I mean? On all up and down those lines. So
I mean,
I think
that
that's the way
works.
to
I mean,
go.
I think about the Eagles' success a couple of years back. They're having depth on both sides of the line. I thought was a huge factor in that. And you look at back, when the Redskins played, what was the one consistent thing between all of our Super Bowls was the offensive line, right? So like,
Mhm.
yeah, there is something to be said, and that's why I don't know what to make of our quarterback position because of that situation.
I think Champ is absolutely on point with this, with the long view of this. Like it's definitely. I mean, I was just throwing that out there just for fun, but clearly the move is to get younger, and build culture. Like that's definitely the long term view. That's what wins every team Super Bowls. Like the great teams in the NFL built it through the draft.
Right. And it doesn't take that many years. The Eagles retooled and got, to a Super Bowl. You look at the Lions, getting to, this when they were a really horrible team 3 years ago and just like a 9-8 team last year. They weren't anything like world beaters, right? So they can happen fast in the salary cap era, right? Because you can't hold on to as many people. And, it's also just such a wear and tear, just the number of people that come through these different buildings, with new young guys that are faster and stronger coming up all the time. So and it proves also that you can find your star at any part of the draft, right? I mean, if Mr. Irrelevant can have an MVP season, you don't necessarily need to use your number 2 pick on the quarterback, to get somebody. Sam Howell is doing much better than we expected, and look where we got him, and he's from UNC. And I like the Tar Heels, but if you'd asked me if a UNC quarterback is going to be a pro in the NFL, and now they might have another one drafted this year, it's just
Tom Brady was a 6th or 7th round pick when he was selected. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback. Let's think about that for a second.
Yeah.
Right?
He was a late draft pick, and he's a Hall of Fame quarterback with multiple Super Bowl rings. You're not going to find it's easy to sit here and say, yeah, we have a top 10 pick and we're going to pick a quarterback and think, yeah, they're going to be the one that's going to go out there and win 4 or 5 Super Bowls and break all kind of records and things like that. That's not always guaranteed.
And Mahomes is what? Mahomes was the 14th pick. He wasn't even a top 10 pick.
No, he was not a top 10 pick. And look at him. He's about to be in his another Super Bowl and things like that. And you look at a lot of these picks at quarterback, like CJ Stroud should have been the number 1 pick. He wasn't, and he had a baller season this year for Houston.
Oh,
he was number 2 overall and had a baller season, whereas freaking the number 1 overall pick just was not it. Bryce Young was not it. He was not it.
Well, that was a bad pick. Like they should never have taken him that high. Like that's the thing. It's like, yeah.
But they also have a bad team. Like I said, maybe their offensive line sucks. Like it's what I mean. Houston was already kind of trending up, especially with the new coach.
Yeah.
And then so he kind of got into a better system. But yeah, Carolina sucks anyway. So it's like kind of the Sam Howell thing. Like, how good is he? Because your team is just horrible. They didn't have a number 1 receiver. You know what I mean?
It's really true though. Like the overarching point about having the number 1 pick doesn't automatically mean you're going to get a great quarterback. We already saw some of these guys near the top or at the top, like guys like Sam Darnold as an example, or people pick top 3. I mean,
we go back to RG3, right?
Yeah,
we sold the farm for that, and then
yep.
didn't work
That's
out.
kind of bad luck though, man. He tore his knee and he was never the same. But
I know, but that's what happens, though. You know, what I mean, that's the
Yeah.
NFL in a nutshell. Like, I mean,
But
like I said,
all this,
build the lines. That's
yeah,
number one. Build those lines, man.
absolutely.
and depth on the lines. You know, you can't just have 5 good players. You need like 6. You know, like maybe 7 if you can somehow get it. You know,
I
and
think about it this way: like, name a great quarterback, like, and I mean all-time great quarterback that didn't have a good offensive line in front of him. Can you think of one?
no, because they need to not be just rely on that. You need the running game, and to have the running game be successful, you need the offensive line. You know, so like you need to have balance to some extent. You know,
The only one I would the only one I'd only point to 2, maybe. I would say Ben Roethlisberger and Aaron Rodgers. But even then, I think you had years where
Aaron Rodgers is a good one. Aaron Rodgers is a good one.
Aaron Rodgers is a good one, right? Because like he barely got any protection ever.
Yeah, but you're talking about an all-time talent too, though, with his arm, you know.
Yeah.
He covers up a lot of weakness.
He was taken like 23rd or something.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So, I feel like we should just wrap up at least the audio podcast. I'm happy to keep you guys on for a couple minutes on Twitch, and we can
Wait, we're not going to talk about the Wizards finally firing Wes Unseld Jr.?
Oh, okay. We should probably talk about that live on air. We did talk about them winning, yeah. So we did mention them and the thing.
Wes Unseld had a son, and he was a GM at some point.
So Wes Unseld Jr. did get rehomed. We'll say he is taken from the coaching position and put into the front office, and it's very unsure of what that means, right?
Yeah.
What is that? Is he scouting? Is he advising? It's ambiguous.
It doesn't even matter. He's not coaching anymore, right, and they're winning.
And they're winning.
Wow.
Right. They won 2 games this week against, not
two worst teams in the NBA. That's why it might not be a great team.
That's still 2 games they would have won. They wouldn't have won with Russell Jr. I'm assuming,
and I think
though, right?
that there is something for switching up the coaches and then teams, playing a little bit better. And they just, unfortunately, it's funny because the players, when they were asked about it, they were like, he wasn't pushing us hard enough, and he wasn't holding us accountable. So maybe new fresh blood from the coaching position, a new voice in the room can hold them a little more accountable. And they had we talked about it earlier, 26 run in this one. We're able to beat the Pistons in Detroit, but these are some road wins, which is nice. It so far is working well. What is the name of the new coach? I can't even remember. Do you know?
Brian Keefe.
Brian Keith. Yeah. I know very little about this guy other than he's been kind of an assistant coach for a lot of different teams over the years. Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's kind of an interim and see what they can do and have a year to figure it out.
I'm honestly really surprised that Wes Unseld Jr. ever coached a game in the NBA, because, like, is the reason they hired him because Wes Unseld was an all-time great for the Washington Bullets back in the day? Like, I don't really know.
He was an assistant, I guess, with the Denver Nuggets, and Jokic.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Well of him, but he just doesn't really seem to command the room or respect of the
at all.
Right.
And it's interesting. His dad had the same issue when he was a coach, and then they put him up in the front office. Yeah, and that didn't work out either. So
that's right. Those are when Jordan was on the team, right? Or more or less.
Is it then? I thought it was earlier, but
I still think it's crazy though that we make this coaching change, and then they beat the Pistons, who is also a trash team, but they went to San Antonio where they rarely win, and they won a game, and so I see some problem. Maybe this team is finally getting the coach they want to play for, and maybe want to salvage the season, because there's no way in hell this team is making the playoffs. They're just too far gone at this point. We're almost at the All-Star break, and they're like absolutely horrible. But maybe they could salvage something, and maybe just make it something, and give the fan base some hope.
Yeah, for sure.
Interesting thought, because that's a battle for the draft lottery. Actually, it's the Wizards, it's the Pistons, it's
the Spurs,
the Trailblazers.
They just beat the Spurs, and the Pistons are they're all battling in the top 3.
We're doing them favors, but it's just nice to see some wins, because for 3 weeks in a row we couldn't even really talk about them because they couldn't win anything. So And I refuse to watch my numbers just plummet just because we feel like we have to. So, like,
I've saved myself the trouble of watching this team on my computer because it's just not worth it.
yeah.
It's
Although
fair.
this was an exciting game, I got to give them credit for sticking with it, and I actually enjoyed watching the end of it. So shout out to them for that. I am going to end the audio podcast there, just because I feel like it's a pretty long audio podcast. But thank you everyone for tuning in. We'll do a little post wrap up on Twitch, and then I'll let my guests go. But thank you everyone for tuning in. Again, next week we're taking the week off of Sports on the Hill podcast. We will be doing a celebration of 700 followers on Twitch and 500 YouTube videos, where we'll be doing a live me making a scuba YouTube video, and maybe even have some guests join me live on Zoom, and I can talk to them through the editing process, where people in chat can ask me questions too. And I just thought it'd be kind of fun. So thankful for the 9th video in my series. I did really well. It was my most viewed video of it. It's a wreck dive. If anyone wants to go check it out, they can go check it out on my YouTube channel, or it's also on Instagram as well. And so we're doing another wreck dive. In that one, it'll be a really cool video. It's a wreck of a wreck. So it's a wreck that went down, but then got destroyed by a hurricane later. It's called the wreck of the Ora Verde. And it's actually a dive site that I've gotten to visit 4 times over the last 6 years and document. And so it's kind of cool to see the history and how it's changed, different fish, document different parts of the area over the different videos. And so it's kind of cool that you can watch. I studied interactive video editing. It was what my major was in, where I wanted to make videos that people could watch in a bunch of different ways, not necessarily linear storytelling. And so this is kind of playing off that. With YouTube, you can have title cards at the end, and you can kind of choose your own adventure that way. And with that, you can either continue the story. I'm doing an 11-part video of this year's dives, 15 dives in 11 videos, and I'm featuring Twitch musicians from all over the world, which is really kind of cool. 3 different continents, a bunch of different countries, 11 different musicians, maybe 12. We're going to be featuring Dan Tremblay, and this one also, we're going to be featuring a bunch of other artists who have voice unmuted for the last one as well. And so I'm excited to do that. So it'll be cool because you can either follow the story of this wreck during the last 6 years, or you can continue the story linearly through this journey, which I think is kind of fun. And I always really like using Dan's music. So it should be a fun show, and I look forward to showing people how I do some of the edits and talking about the animals and the different stuff that I saw, as well as reminiscing over the last well, I guess it depends on how you talk about how long I've been on Twitch, but the last 3 or 4 years, being off and on this platform, and my appreciation for all of the different followers and subs along the way, and getting to meet people like Davey and Jesse, and doing the Leon Lounge, and I got to do Davey's Sandwich Show, and so it's cool to get to talk about that. So I look forward to that show. So again, that'll be on my Twitch channel at the same time the podcast usually is around 9 o'clock. And I think I'll also maybe go live on my personal Facebook as well, if people want to watch it on there. But yeah, that'll be that. And then the following week will be a Super Bowl recap show, where I'm hoping to bring back some 49ers fans. And we'll definitely recap however that goes, and the last 4 games for the Caps, and then however the Wizards have done over the last 2 weeks as well. So that'll be episode 330. This has been episode 329. Misery Monday, Caps and Ravens, with special guest Davies eating a sandwich and celebrating the 49ers in hour 2 with the Leon Lounge. And so I just want to thank everyone for tuning in on Facebook, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. And DC Sports Without the Politics, Sports on the Hill podcast. Let's go.
Sayonara.
Let's go Caps. Let's go Wizards. Let's go 49ers.
Go Niners, baby.
All right, so we're out on that live stream.